with Jeff Madeen Blo Back Gallery in the Grove in Pueblo. The reason why I wanted to talk to you was I don't think, well, first, how are you doing, Jeff? How are you holding up over there?
Fucking fabulous.
Well, right out the gate, we get the sensors already bleeping us. The reason why I want to talk to you was I don't think that there's maybe more of art presence in Pueblo for what you've built as a little community over there in the Grove. And if people aren't familiar, real quick, the Grove is just just tucked in right by the Arkansas River. It was an old historic area of town, heavily damaged by the flood, and hasn't seen the best of days, but it has a real love of affection with me because my family is members of Mount Carmel Church over there, and so we go way back with the neighborhood. So I think the first question is, how are you doing when your art gallery shut down?
I'm just kind of fighting through this surrealism. Just time is very peculiar. It gets shorter, it gets longer. I seem to be sleeping in a lot longer than I used to, but I start to kind of hit my art stride later in the afternoon and the evening, and then I'll just work until I gotta eat basically. And then I'll have dinner and that'll be it. But it's just very peculiar. I don't know how to explain it.
But you haven't stopped. I mean, if people hear banging in the background, that's not because there's somebody just doing random construction. You're actually moving forward on some art projects even in the middle of this.
So the gallery is going to have its first COVID show, and we're trying to figure out how to do it online and create some interest and make it just besides the art itself. Joshua Shoto and Travis Cleveland and a guy named Frank Banks, not his real name, who is an older guy, and he's kind of melting down. He can't really fight through the COVID. He just doesn't know what to do with his time, so he hasn't been able to make any art. But he has some old art that he's going to show. And so those guys are installing the show in the gallery as we speak. I'll do a little walkthrough. We'll see what we have to see when we get done here. So we're just trying to figure it out.
Talk to me a little bit about, because you know this personally. I think what you've built there previous to this, when you have your First Friday Art Walks, is dozens of people come to the shows. They have a good time, but at the same time, we've also talked about how difficult it is to have an art gallery in Pueblo. So first question, how did you build a strong art community who wanted to show up to Blo Back Gallery every Friday?
I guess my philosophy was build it and they'll come. So I created this nice space, nice smooth white walls, very nice lights. So we'd show art the best way. And I first started with a show of my own work. And I guess the word got out and it was a pretty well-attended show. And then I just kind of took it from there. And that was December of 2017. And then I did my show for 2 months because I didn't know any artists at the time. I didn't have anybody to plug in. And then they started just plugging in local artists, of which this town has a lot of very good artists that do all kinds of art, be it sculpture, painting, printmaking, photography, what have you. So, getting known as a place to show good art. I call
Is that what it's about? I mean, because you come from Durango, you moved here. I think you should tell people why you chose Pueblo. I think this is a fascinating reason why you moved from Durango to Pueblo. So why don't you tell people?
I'm trying a short story. So I have a Tacoma pickup and I have a little pop-up camper that was on the back, and I decided that I'm going to leave Durango. I was kind of getting really bored with it. The kind of people that were moving in were, I frankly don't find them very interesting. They kind of are a lot of non-paid professional recreators, I guess that's what I call them. They're trust funders. They're just wealthy people, and there's nothing wrong with wealth. Hey, I'd love to be wealthy. And so I went to Phoenix, Tucson, El Paso, Marfa, all the Texas cities. And then I went to New Orleans and, Panhandle of Florida. I wasn't going to go down deep. And then I went up to the Atlantic coast. And then I went to Detroit. I was looking for a place to move. I was looking for an art scene. I was looking for affordability. That was critical. I had a house in Durango I sold, had the cash, and I didn't want any debt. So I looked all over these different states, and then I went to Denver, and I said, well, Denver's done. All the rocks have been turned over. And then I came to Pueblo. It was my last stop, and I really legitimately started to look at real estate. I had kind of an idea in my mind what I was looking for. I was looking for a place where I could have a studio, a place I could live, and a place where I could rent out some space to tenants, and then a gallery. And so I spent a year rehabbing and making the gallery my office and studio space, and that was that. And then I put up the gallery and started having shows.
Why is it important to you? Because I think when we're talking and nobody's recording this out, and this isn't going out to the world, that the common theme is, and you just said it, in Denver, all the rocks have been overturned. Durango, kind of that scene's exhausted, or that didn't interest you. Why is that important to you?
Okay, so Durango is also a very small community. I think it has about, the time I moved there in '95, I think it had about 14,000 people. And then there's a college there. It's in the REMAC, the same as a CSUP. And I just, and it grew. So now there's probably 17 to 18,000 people that live there. And it's just like, it was very dull. And there are a lot of artists there too. It's a beautiful place. And it's too far away from, I'm glad that I live 2 hours from Denver on a good day. You can go there and get a city fix. You can go there and back in the same day. And anyway, so I told my friends in Durango that I'm leaving. And they said, where? I go, Pueblo. And they go, that shithole. They, literally almost every one of them said that. And I said, have you been there? And not one of them had been here. And I said, well, then you don't really know. You don't know the potential of this place, the history, the architecture, the river. I'd never live in a town if it didn't have a river. So I like to fly fish, but I just like having that motion, the water going through. So that's that.
But in terms of your own creativity, because it's not just you own an art gallery. I mean, you do make your own art and you do produce your own things along with some other stuff. But it's not just about you came to Pueblo and said, oh, I'm going to just buy a building and put people's art up. There's also an intention here that to fuel your own creative spirit and your own drive to produce something, right? I mean, this is not just, hey,
yeah.
I bought a building because it's cheap and I put up lights.
No. I mean, Pueblo is gritty. I lived in Chicago on what I would call the various edges of that town. The edge, the artists move in, and then it's artist lofts for lawyers. And I like gritty. It gives me inspiration. I love the train. I'm making art out of train parts and pieces and stuff that I find in the dirt over there. And it's inspirational. So.
One of the things with your own art, it was sort of like a protest of, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a protest of culture and a protest of, do you want to say mainstream America in a way? This sort of, how would you classify what you're trying to say in what you produce?
Oh, friend of mine, a writer in Durango, said the work that I do is wake-up art, trying to get people to wake up. But now we're going to go through this pandemic, and I think it's going to wake up a lot of people. Basically, they don't need me to do it because they're going to wake up on their own, or they're just going to stick their head in the sand and just go back to sleep. But I don't find that, because it's going to be a harsh reality that we're going to be going through in the future here.
For art galleries, it's everybody lives on the fringe normally. I mean, everybody just hopes to get some money normally.
In good
times.
Yes.
And so now you have to, I think it presents a unique challenge, because now you have to, try to produce something. You don't have the same outlet to sell something. You could put it online, but that's not the same experience as an art gallery or an art opening show when people can come in and see it.
Definitely not.
So what creative ideas do you have to solve it? I mean, I know you just said you're doing a virtual art gallery, but how the hell do you solve this problem?
Well, I don't.
And using your engineer brain. I mean, let's also say that Jeff's had some background in engineering. So if you could put on your engineering brain, how do you solve this problem?
How to create a virtual buzz. I know that you went on Facebook to the Arts Alliance thing last Friday, right? I saw your name pop up, and I got there towards the end, and I just saw Inea interview and him playing the music. I didn't talk to anybody else that was there that saw the whole thing, but I sensed a lot of comments in the chat, and it seemed like there's potential there. And there's a wider audience out there in the world also, and everybody else is locked down, so everybody has a lot more time on their hands than they normally would. So that's kind of perhaps a benefit, a perk.
Well, it's also exposing a lot of people, because I think that nobody creatively thought in this market a week ago, because what you're referring to is the Pueblo Alliance. They did a live show on Friday, about 2 hours, some musicians and other artists. But that's something that we haven't seen. And now everybody's saying, well, if we can reach local individuals when we can return out in public and be social again. But also it's reaching somebody in Italy or in Denver that might see what we produce and like it. And so it's one, it hurts the local art scene, but in a way it opens up the market because people are being creative. But I don't know how you feel, but I don't think that it's so new. We don't know how this is going to land just yet. We don't know what's going to come out of it, but a lot of people are experimenting.
And that's what I'm doing. And, I've kind of been casting my net on the net to see what other people are doing. And so far I haven't really found a model to replicate. But I have seen some things that are interesting. And so
how does it for you? Because what most people don't know is let's talk a little bit about Pueblo art culture and Southern Colorado art culture. And, this is the political portion of this, this TV show. How would you classify it? I mean, if people are coming to your show and these are people in the art world, what do you think?
I don't know if this is true, but I've just been saying this for a while, that there's just a lack of curiosity, basically. And I find that, so I have, the word art on the top of my building in 10-foot high letters. I illuminate it at night with a black light because it's all fluorescent paint. You can see it from Highway 50. So on the average, before this thing started, I was getting about 2 people a week coming in. I said, why did you come in? Why'd you stop? Well, I've been going by that sign for, at least a year, and I'm curious enough to finally stop, and I've got some time, and they'll come in. So, and then they come back and they'll tell others, and if they've got guests in town, they got some time to kill, they'll swing by the gallery and see what show there is. So that's good. It's building. But the politics.
But in terms of the lack of curiosity, I think that it's something that, do you think it's because there's an exclusionary nature of artists, or is it because it's something that's in the water, or do you think it's something that there just isn't a reason right now to venture outside of the safe little confines, pre-COVID, safe little confines of what little network you were in, and there wasn't that exploration? We've talked about why. I mean, but what's your opinion?
I think that people are in a rut. They do the same thing over and over, and I find it. I really like this town because it's very much a family-oriented town. You know, in Durango, very few people are from there. People come and people go. Very few people I know, when I talk to them, I'm from Durango. Well, it's probably 80% of the people that I talk to here are from Pueblo. And so they have their friends, they have their group, the things that they do them over and over. They're on kind of, you know, this route that they take, and it might be to go visit grandma or the parents or their friends, but they do the same thing over and over and over again.
So what has to happen to get people out of the rut? I mean, I'll be honest with everybody listening. I don't know what would be the impetus, even though my family's been here for generations. I don't know. I mean, the art sign's a start, but it's not enough, right? So what has to be done? Because this is the central question. And I'll preface this by saying, when you talk to local leaders, when you talk to artists, when you talk to art galleries, they feel something that should be in between Santa Fe and Denver, and Pueblo is it. They don't know what, but Pueblo is it. And then you also talk to whether tourists or visitors or efforts for more tourism, and even non-residents and visitors. There is something special about Pueblo that we can't quite get anywhere else. But you can't put it in a nice package. You don't know what that slogan is. It's just something right now.
Right.
So in your opinion, if you could go to somebody right now, whether it's the mayor, whether it's state tourism, and say, this is what will change it, what would you tell them?
There's a couple different things, but one of the things, and I may have told you this, that who's the county commissioner, Hart, Terry Hart. Yep. Terry Hart, a neighbor of mine, I brought up this, there's a space where Speckin used to be. And boy, that'd be a really great.
Speckin, just to give everybody, Speckin was an old.
It's across from Water Tower Place, which is the Alpha Beta meatpacking plant, which is.
And that's just right by your place.
Right across the alley from the street where Speckin Scrapyard used to be. CDOT bought that property when they were building the 3 overpasses and all the demo, and they staged all their machinery and materials there while they were doing the project. And then they came in and they mounded it up, they rolled it, they put in some irrigation, they planted some grass, and then they put a cyclone fence around the whole thing. So to me, it looks like a grass prison. You know, I don't know what the deal is, but I said, well, that'd be really great if that was a sculpture park. And if any of y'all have seen The Bean in Chicago, it's a public art project that was created by Anish Kapoor, who's an international sculptor. Anyway, he created this thing called The Bean. It's polished stainless steel. It's quite large. You can walk underneath it. It looks like a lima bean. That's what they call it. But it's just, you see the joy on everybody's face. It doesn't matter if they're kids to old people. It's just awesome. People just engage with it. It's probably one of the most Instagrammed things on Instagram. And so people go to that. If they're in Chicago, well, we got to go down to Millennial Park and check it out. So what I think, and some other people I know, that would be really great if Pueblo could get is a public sculpture, not made by a Puebloan, not made by the Williams. We've got enough Williams projects here. Um, and it's right off the highway. You could see it. People would get off the highway, they would stop. And that the goal is for, I think, everybody that owns a business in Pueblo that could cater to people getting off the highway, be it a shop, be it a restaurant, to try and get people to get off the highway, because they've been going past Pueblo who knows how long on their way to see art in Santa Fe, and they don't stop here unless they need gas. We need to give them a reason to stop and then kind of spread out and see what this town is about. I mean, I think it's very interesting. I like the stories.
What's the status of that sculpture park?
Well,
where are you at with it?
Because of the shutdown, I don't know, but there was a meeting in front of City Council, and we did a presentation, and then Terry Hart spoke, and the city said, let's look into it. And then COVID hit, and then that was it. That was the last of it. So I don't know what the status is. I'd say it's dead in the water right now. And then in conjunction with that, there is a NeighborWorks owns the Clark Western Wear building down on Main and what is that, Second? Anyway, they own that. They're going to put condos upstairs and maybe a grocery store on the first floor, but that's neither here nor there. We did get a grant from the NeighborWorks. I think they're in DC. We got about $4,000 grant, and we're going to put together a walk. And we'll start at the end of the Riverwalk, which is kind of the naturalistic part of the Riverwalk. And we'll go down Santa Fe underneath the three bridges. We'll go into Water Tower if there is something to see there. And we'll go down Clark Street. We'll go past the sculpture park. And then it goes down Clark Street, goes past Blowback, goes by Moynihan Park, and then goes up Santa Fe, takes a right at Dewdrop, which is Mesa, takes a left at Gus's. I don't know how many bars it goes past, but it could be like a bar walk. You know, you can have a beer at every bar. Just kidding. And then it will
you know, it will happen.
It will happen. Then it will go up to Northern, and there's a bunch of storefronts up there. Northern to me is like Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago. I kind of, my salad days are all in Chicago. And at the time, it was kind of full of really crummy stores. I don't even know how they existed. And then over time, it's probably one of the hottest places in town. There's lots of music venues, bars, restaurants, art galleries. And it's a happen and thrive and joint. And I see that potentially. I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime, but maybe yours, John.
Well, I don't know. I'm not far behind you.
So would be, you know.
No, I don't think we can wait. I really hope we can't wait, because I think here's the thing, and since I don't want to say that you're new, but you're newish to Pueblo. That there just isn't a will to support art in sort of a grand scheme of things. And I don't think that that's a controversial statement. I think that you can see it evident. I mean, you know, credit to local artists that do get those large projects that the Williams do and others, credit to them. But there's not enough people, and such as, say, Last Leaf Printing, who's here with us, to say, why don't you guys do something big? We have a couple $1,000s. We want you to put, say in your case, why don't you do that art thing, but make it a Pueblo thing, and we'll put it on the Riverwalk. We'll pay you this money, build a still sculpture, and then do one of your own art projects, and we'll pay you for it. And we want you, Jeff, to be the new, create an Instagram thing for us, and we'll give you some money and reward you for it. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, other than a grind of getting a grant money, and then CDOT shows up, and then the state shows up, and then, you know, you have your prison of grass that needs to be, your grass prison that needs to be changed. I don't think any of this is a controversial statement. I think that it is a statement that our priorities in Southern Colorado have been jobs, jobs, jobs at any cost. And a lot of things that would bring more jobs into Pueblo was increase quality of life, allow more creativity of its people, invest in invest in anything that puts Pueblo on the map,
Right.
rather than saying, hey,
Instead of murder happens here. Right.
yeah, instead of murder happens here, or say, we're a great place on your way to another place.
Sure.
At some point there has to be, and I don't like the slogan Pueblo Pride or Pueblo Pride, because I think every town has that. I don't think it's unique enough to Pueblo. It's not saying we shouldn't say it, but I don't think it's unique enough. But there is something different about Pueblo, and it's more than a slogan. It's more than just saying Pueblo Proud. But nobody is doing a lot past the crime angle. They're saying, well, let's feel good about ourselves, but we don't know then what to feel good about or what to invest our energy. So do you feel in Pueblo that you are rewarded as a creative, as an artist? Do you think you're appreciated?
I get lots of people, I mean, a lot of people saying, excuse me, man, I'm really glad you're here. I love what you're doing. And that feels good. Thank you. I'm not getting a lot of monetary support. I never really had the illusion that I was going to, kill it here. But so a friend of mine, an artist, you know who he is. Excuse me, I don't have COVID. I probably should get some water. He said, Pueblo doesn't like cool shit. And yeah, I think you're right. We have a lot of bronze animals on the Riverwalk. Apparently, the publisher bought those and put them there. And I hear there's actually more marching their way to Pueblo. We don't need any more of that. I know what an antelope looks like. I know what a beaver looks like. We don't need them in bronze. I don't know if you want to talk about the festival now or not. We could hold off, or it's kind of related to.
No, I don't have I don't have. We'll go as long as you. I mean.
Okay, so as you know, last year I did a festival with Mike Clark, and I lost $3,000 on it, and I went to the city and.
So let's just back up a little bit and let everybody know. Last year, what you were trying to get going off the ground was Change Your Mind Festival, and this is at the old Alpha Beta building, the old meat packing plant that's just right behind your art gallery. So, where does that stand? I know $3,000 took a big loss on it, but it was something different. So, what were you trying to do with that, and where do you think that's going to happen? Or
I was trying to start something new that could be an annual event that would bring in other people from the state or wherever to see this really great outdoor event. It is covered with a roof. It's a 6,000 foot space. It has a roof and it has no glass in the windows. And the whole north end is open to this plaza. Plaza is very cool. So you can have food trucks in there. You can have different vendors. And we can have installation around. There was one installation. I was hoping to have a lot more. And so I went to the city and I said, what do I need to do? Well, you can do a temporary use permit. I'm talking to this guy in the city hall and he goes, just fill this out. It's really simple form, $50, boom. Okay, then the fire department will come out and they'll check it. A region will come out, check the electric and blah, blah, blah. It seemed pretty easy. So the next day I get a call from this woman and she's like, she's got, her voice is shaking. She goes, yeah, well, the mayor's going to reduce the fee in half. And I go, what, $25? Oh, no. It was going to be $1,200, and it's a special use permit, not a temporary use, a special use permit, which is normally $1,200, non-refundable. And so he halved it, so it was going to be $600. I go, well, that's a lot of money. I can't do that. And so I didn't promote it real heavily because I didn't, get that permit, didn't get the approval by the authority. And so I made it not a paid event. It was a free event by donation. And, I got about $600 in donations, but everybody that was there thought it was a great event, including the bands and the artists. And so this year, I think there's time, and probably if they'll allow us to get back together again with ourselves, I'll do it again. And I just want it to be this, annual event. I'm not looking to lose money, but I'm not looking to make much. And it would be like a Pueblo proud thing. So everybody that was there just thought it was a really great venue, great space, and everybody liked the energy.
So for the summer months, how are you going to do the virtual stuff and still maintain all these gallery shows that you have planned?
I don't know. We're going to be doing it soon, John. We're just gonna,
I don't know either. I mean, I've never had somebody guide me on a computer before, because otherwise I would just grab my computer or grab my camera and we just do it, and there you go. So, like I said to everybody, it's a brand new world. Nobody knows what's happening now.
Right.
And we don't even know when we can congregate again. So I guess we'll see where we're at. Jeff, any last words to anybody? I mean, you want to, let me start that over. Jeff, anything you want to say closing out? Some words of encouragement, some hope about Pueblo, just any venting you want to do? Do you need a vent? You need to get something off your chest right now, because everybody seems that they just need to say something. They need to get something off their chest. So you got anything?
I usually do. I can rant with the best of them. These are incredibly interesting times, and that's kind of you don't really. It's actually a curse in China. Live in interesting times. Anyway, we do. I mean, it could go in a really bad direction. Society and civilization as we know it could completely melt down, or people will find their heart and will find a way to be stronger through this. Frankly, if the banks go down, I'm not going to be too sad. But they probably won't.
Well, let's go with this the second option rather than first and third, and that we find our hearts and we become a little bit more kind and more gentle, and maybe we also find the art in this and the beauty in this.
I don't know. Art can change the world. It really can.
Oh, let's hope this time it does it. So I appreciate it, Jeff. Stay safe out there, and we'll circle back and
thank you, John.
See where you're at. So.